Of Tulsi Gabbard to be the director of national intelligence, he's sending a signal that we have lost our mind.
The American people delivered quite an incredible mandate for change, and we've had enough of the Harris-Biden regime.
The general vibe on the Hill right now is WTF.
I mean, I would describe it as God-tier level trolling.
Okay, so the Trump nominations for his cabinet today has caused widespread panic with Washington, the establishment, Democrats, left-wing media. I mean, everybody is losing their mind. And the latest case is with Tulsi Gabbard, who's been nominated for Director of National Intelligence. That would mean what? She went from being on the terror watch list to being a person that can literally walk into the room and fire some people, right? And of course, we're going to start with the crazy reaction from a neocon, war hawk, John Bolton.
Well, I don't know, with his announcement of Tulsi Gabbard to be the director of national intelligence, he's sending a signal that we have lost our mind when it comes to collecting intelligence. This is, up until a few hours ago, I would have said that was the worst cabinet appointment in recent American history. Of course, since Matt Gaetz's nomination, he clearly has taken the lead on that score. But it's not an indication that the administration is serious about one of the most important aspects of dealing with a threat like China, which is intelligence.
Why do you feel that way?
Well,
I don't mean to jump in.
Let me give you an example. Sure, let me give you an example of Tulsi Gabbard at work. The day of an intelligence briefing to members of Congress, January the 8th, 2020, when under President Trump's direction, the United States had eliminated Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Quds Force, Tulsi Gabbard said in an interview with Jake Tapper, and I quote, that she was concerned about the illegal and unconstitutional act of war that had been carried out under President Trump's orders. So that's the kind of person that we're going to put in charge of our overall intelligence community. I don't think either she or Matt Gaetz ought to have a confirmation hearing until they have both had full field FBI investigations.
All right, so in an earlier video, I stated why these people are being chosen for really three main reasons, okay? Number one is the loyalty factor. Number two is making sure that Trump does not get stabbed in the back, so eyes and ears. And number three, someone who's going to go and clean house. And I find the irony to be interesting here, where it was just recently that Tulsi Gabbard was part of a government spy program where they were spying on her, and she was on the terror watch list. For what? For what reason? What investigations were conducted to, I guess, justify the government to do something like that, right? There hasn't been anything that was publicly stated from the government, from DOJ. So I just find it how it's full circle now, right? She's going to be the person in charge, making sure that that's not happening to people, of course. But also, she gets to hold people accountable. So maybe it's time for them to pack their bags and get out of there, right? But here is her, in her own words, what she had to say about getting nominated.
Here now, newly nominated Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Well, first of all, congratulations, Tulsi. We're all very proud of you. Take us into the room or the airplane when this was offered to you. How did it go down?
We had a great conversation and talked a little bit about the work that needs to be done. And I was grateful and honored to accept President Trump's offer to serve our country and support his objective to defend the safety, security, and freedom of the American people as the Director of National Intelligence.
How do you think foreign capitals are taking your nomination and the nomination of other people in the national security apparatus?
It's a good question. I think President Trump has already shown how active he has been in not waiting around for day one on January 20th or 21st, but he's already leading. He's already engaging with so many of these world leaders around the world on the phone constantly. And he's showing the kind of leadership that the American people voted for.
Do you expect resistance from the inside? Because there was a lot of resistance in the first term. And how would you deal with that?
The American people delivered quite an incredible mandate for change in this election, with the popular vote and the electoral vote overwhelmingly saying, hey, we want Donald Trump as president, and we've had enough of the Harris-Biden regime. Of course, there's going to be resistance to change from the swamp in Washington. I think that's kind of the point. The American people are saying, hey, stop looking at yourselves. Stop focusing on your own power, your own position, your own bank accounts. How about we have leaders in Washington who are actually looking out for the American people? And on every issue across the board, that's really what it comes down to with what President Trump is trying to accomplish is we have to make sure that our government puts the interests of the American people first.
How did you think the Biden meeting went today?
It was interesting to see that Biden didn't seem to be able to stop smiling. For them to have sat there for what she said a couple hours and good. I'm glad that they sat there. They had a seemingly good conversation. President Trump, I'm sure, is eager to get to work.
Okay, so before I even have my opinion about what she was talking about, if you guys are getting value from this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. If you want to support us further, go to the link in the description below and shop the merch store or buy us a cup of coffee. Now, Tulsi Gabbard has always come across very professional. I've yet to ever see anything unprofessional from her, of course. She's a fellow veteran, which I appreciate. She's deployed overseas, which is a great thing too. But the biggest knocks that people have on her that are only coming from the left, by the way, is that she is a Russian plant, which is just a conspiracy, of course. She is a Putin sympathizer, which is also a conspiracy. And which brings me to my main point here is that what you're going to see from the left and definitely in the media is this full on hit piece trying to paint her as this Russian double agent, package it in the name of misinformation, that whole game plan that they always use, right? To diminish her image and try to prevent her from getting nominated. Now, that brings me to a major point that I wanted to make that I didn't in my earlier video, which is Trump has been calling for a recess appointment. Now, what does that mean? It sounds exactly what I just said. It's getting people appointed during the time that Senate is on recess, meaning the people in Congress, they're not working right now, which is where we're at today. And that means that the president has the authority to appoint anybody right now on a temporary basis. Now, this could lead to only one of two scenarios. Trump could appoint Tulsi Gabbard and Matt Gaetz, which was a very controversial pick, on a temporary basis in order to force the nomination to take place once we get down the road. Or secondly, it could be used to leapfrog into a different nomination down the road for a different person. Ultimately, we don't know how this is going to go. This is kind of like watching House of Cards play out in reality, right?
Well, Julie, let's talk about some of the picks that you just ran through. Matt Gaetz, Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth. Do you think that they are confirmable at this point? What's the buzz on the Hill right now?
Well, I hope you don't forgive me for saying this, Kristen, but the general vibe on the Hill right now is WTF. People are shocked at the news of Gaetz, especially. I feel like I couldn't even get around to getting reaction on Tulsi Gabbard when this pick of Gaetz came down the pike. Senators, Republican lawmakers even, one of them in a closed-door meeting said, oh my God, when they saw the post from Donald Trump. Several senators, I just ran into Lindsey Graham, for example, who kind of brushed me off and said he didn't speak to Trump yet. We'll see, he said, if Gaetz is confirmable, if he's a good pick. Chuck Grassley, who's going to be the top Republican on the Judiciary Committee, working very closely with the next Attorney General. He really didn't have anything to say. He stood there for 30 seconds just completely baffled when reporters told him about this. Others like Collins, Murkowski, those who are seen to deflect from whatever Trump tries to do, their press handlers basically pushing us aside. And it is because look at who Gaetz is. He's currently under investigation by the House Ethics Committee for some of these personal misgivings that he's been a part of, some of the things that the federal government has investigated him on and later dropped charges on. He is still very much being investigated by that House committee. Bipartisan sentiment across the aisle is they really can't believe that Gaetz is the one who ended up with this top job. And the question of if he's confirmable, well, you talk about all these picks. This really is the biggest test between Senate Republicans and Trump, and a test of their allyship to him, too.
It sure is, Julie. It's well put.
Yeah, so that was just them really kind of explaining what's happening in the swamp and how they're really feeling about everything. Now, we already did a video on Matt Gaetz, and if you guys want to see that, I'll link it at the end of the video here. But this is what we want them to feel, okay? The establishment, we want them sweating. We want them worried. We want some of them to contemplate whether or not they want to serve in the government moving forward. Now, you're going to have a lot of people who are going to stay, and they're going to fall in line. That's just the way that Washington works. It's politics. One minute you have people saying that Trump is a threat to democracy, and then another minute you have people smiling at him, the same people who said that, shaking his hand. Oh yeah, if you need an example of that, watch this.
Well, Mr. President-elect and former President, thank you, Donald, congratulations.
Thank you.
And looking forward to having like we said, a smooth transition. Do everything we can to make sure you're accommodated, what you need. And we're going to get a chance to talk about some of that today. So
good.
Welcome
Thank you
back.
very much. And thank you very much. And politics is tough, and it's in many cases not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate it very much. And a transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Joe.
You're welcome.
Was he really a threat to democracy, or was he really a threat to the bureaucracy, right? Is Tulsi Gabbard really a Russian plant and the worst cabinet pick ever? Or were you actually the worst cabinet pick ever, John Bolton, right? I mean, it's so funny how they react, because they accuse Trump and people who support him for being a certain way, when in time, the truth comes out and they've been that way the entire time, right? I mean, so they don't have a leg to stand on. They have no credibility. Why would we ever listen to them at this point in time about how they feel about these cabinet picks from Trump? I'm not taking anybody's word for it. We're going to let him do what he said he was going to do for the American people. And however he gets it done, he gets it done. Now, there was a clip that came out from John Fetterman, which has been going viral because I think he summed up these cabinet picks from Trump nicely. Check it out.
I mean, I would describe it as God tier level trolling to just trigger a full-on China syndrome to own the libs in perpetuity.
Yeah, so he might have a point there, because if you were thinking that Trump was going to come in and be very moderate with his choices, you had another thing coming, right? If you think he was going to do anything that would favor the establishment, you're definitely delusional, right? He's going all in on loyalty. He's not going to make the same mistake twice, right, that he did in his first administration. And by the way, when he first got elected, this guy didn't know what he was doing, okay? And so for the country to still be in a good place, if we're not counting COVID, given that he didn't have the experience, says something. But now that he does have the experience, I can only imagine what the potential is going to be in this administration today. So a question for you. What do you think about the Tulsi Gabbard nomination? Do you think it's a good pick or a bad pick? How did you feel about knowing that she was placed on the terror watch list? Let me know what your thoughts are and more in the comments section below. Now, I told you guys about the whole Matt Gaetz thing. People are losing their mind over that as well. We did a video on that. If you guys want to check it out, all you have to do is click on the video because it's coming up right now.